Alternative transportation is a topic that's been gaining a lot of attention lately. It's a segment of the industry that's rapidly growing as student population changes and needs evolve. We're going to dig into that today and what's behind all of this with a company who's been on the front lines of it for about 20 years. This episode of The Route is sponsored by IC Bus. The next generation is here and is ahead of its class. Let's get rolling. The iconic yellow bus has been the backbone of how we get students to and from school for decades, even centuries. Though what that looks like sure has changed. Now another shift has occurred. More school districts are turning to smaller capacity vehicles and specialized services. We know that there's been substantial growth in demand in the past few years for alternative transportation, and it's happening in large part due to more students experiencing housing instability and qualifying for McKinney-Vento. There's also more students with special needs than before, some who have medical or behavioral needs that make it hard for them to ride a bus. Many have been calling for more standards when it comes to alternative transportation, especially as the bus itself is highly regulated. And now that is happening with California's new-ish legislation and outcomes from the National Congress on School Transportation last May. So let's dig into this topic a little more. We're going to check in with Mitch Bowling, the CEO of EverDriven, to share what he's seen up close on this topic. Now I'm joined by Mitch Bowling, CEO of EverDriven. Thank you, Mitch, for being on the route.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. So there's so much to talk about when it comes to alternative transportation. So before we get too deep in the weeds here, start us out easy. What is alternative transportation if someone's watching who's not completely sure? What does the term mean to you? What's the significance?
No, great question. Alternative transportation is sort of what the title says. We are an alternative to busing. We are not trying to displace buses. We are a complement. So alternative transportation is the phrase that is used, but think of it as a complement to busing, or we support school districts that don't have buses at all. So, and we do that in smaller vehicles, sedans, minivans, SUVs. That's what alternative transportation is. And it's really focused at students that a bus may not be the best solution for them. Primarily two types of students. Students with special needs and students with housing challenges or foster youth. So those two populations are primarily what we do and primarily what alternative transportation assists school districts in solving that pain point, because that transportation is somewhat and oftentimes has different challenges than standard busing. One basic example, busing is basically designed, and it should be for efficiency reasons, to go from a school to a bus stop, where with students with disabilities or other challenges, we're going door to door. So that's a high level of the differences. So hopefully that helps.
Yes. Let's look back in history a little bit, if you will. When did, the shift to alternative transportation really start to emerge?
Well, it's been a while, actually. This is not a new space. It's new in some places still, but not a new space overall. So our company began in 2005 in Orange County, California, with one school district. And since then, it's grown to 36 states and supporting over 800 school districts. So it began, you could argue a long time ago. And with the primary mission of, opening doors to a brighter future for students, communities, every day, one trip at a time. So that's what we focus on in doing this. And the foundation of everything we do is built on a platform of safety. But, so we've been around a while and, started on the West Coast, but now we serve 36 states.
Yeah. Well, and it's not unique for kids to go to school in a vehicle that's not a school bus in the first place, right? I mean, parents drive in their own vehicles. That my mom drove me to school for a lot of years, but
my wife drove our kids to school for all of high school.
Yeah. And, so it's, I guess, just the change is now there's an official provider doing it for the parents whose schedules don't allow, or maybe, there's other requirements that warrant you stepping in to say, don't worry, we got this.
Yeah, whether it's requirements or just a better fit. So right student in the right vehicle. I visited three of our clients last week, face to face, in their offices.
Yeah.
And the common theme is, we can't do this without you. And they all have buses and many, many buses. And that is perfect for the vast majority of their student base. When they can efficiently use a bus, I would tell them, use that bus. But there's, the types of students that we focus on, many times that is not really aligned with busing. It's not a negative or a positive, it's just different. And that's where they partner with us so that we can help solve transportation that isn't really suited for busing. Especially, a great example is students that have to go out of district. To send a bus out of district would be very inefficient with one child or even
Right.
even five children on it, because the bus can hold sometimes up to 80 children.
Yeah.
So that's where the combination, and that's how we think about modern student transportation. It's multi-mode. It's the combination of buses for busing and for students that need busing, and alternative vehicles for students that is better suited. So that's how we talk a lot about modern student transportation, and that's a part of it. And also part of it is visibility, technology, transparency. It's more than that. But from just a mode of transportation, it's really not one size fits all.
Yeah. Well, and you guys just put out a report a month or so ago about, I think it was 18% increased demand just compared to the year prior. Is that right? And,
That's right. Every year the demand has grown. And if you look at the industry, McKinney-Vento students, which are, again, families experiencing housing instability,
Mhm.
homelessness across the country, just year over year, that grew 39%.
Yeah.
At Everdriven, that population since 2020 has grown 167%.
Wow.
Also, special education, or what we would call SPED,
Yeah.
62% of districts reported that has grown just in 2024. So both segments continue to grow. That is very consistent. I've been here almost 5 years. That's consistent. The other thing that's, I guess, created a lot of the growth is
Mhm.
a persistent shortage of bus drivers. School districts constantly, they are doing a great job, by the way, with this challenge, but they are constantly challenged with bus driver shortages, and the cost of busing continues to go up. Um, but you know, that's where we can help them. And all of this, as I said before, all of this built on a foundation of safety. I think school districts, parents, everyone involved has an expectation of not only safety but visibility. We have an app for parents, we have an app for school districts, cameras in the vehicle, GPS tracking, real-time notifications. All of this is part of what modern student transportation is.
Right. Do you have any kind of a breakdown, or can you estimate how many of your users are those McKinney-Vento versus SPED, or,
Mhm.
far out of
Yeah, we
district, or
track
just
that.
because of a driver shortage?
Yeah, we track that constantly.
Yeah.
Here's probably the best way to characterize it. As I mentioned, I've been here almost 5 years. When I started here in early 21, SPED students were actually the majority of the students that we transported. Now that, as I mentioned, that group has grown every year. So while that group has grown, McKinney-Vento has grown more. McKinney-Vento is now the largest population that we transport. The real number, as a mix of our transportation, in 2021, 32% of the students we transported were McKinney-Vento. That is now 52%.
Okay.
In a relatively short time frame. And again, it's not because SPED shrunk. It grew as well.
Yeah.
McKinney-Vento is growing faster.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, it's hard to not wonder why. But there's so many factors driving that.
There are many reasons. A lot of them, everyone would understand.
Yeah.
There are more housing. Unfortunately, there are more families with housing challenges today than really ever, or at least in modern history. And as I talk to school districts, none of us think that is slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah.
So we work together to find the right combination to give these students every opportunity to succeed.
Yeah. Well, and at least now when there's a provider like you on the market, it means that those students are at least still getting to school somehow, because otherwise they probably wouldn't make it at all, right?
Well, in a lot of cases they wouldn't. I mean, not only getting them to school, this is obvious, improves their test scores. Everyone wants students to graduate.
Yeah.
It improves chronic absenteeism.
Right.
Obviously, if you're not at school, your test scores aren't going to be what they could be. And in some cases, especially with the McKinney-Vento population, it may be the way they get a warm meal that day, because we get them to school before school starts and they can take advantage of that. So
Yeah.
we have a very passionate team of people here. Our employee base is so passionate around really the things I just mentioned, that we make a difference every day in thousands of households with parents and or guardians. And what we do, we feel really matters. And that's why we partner with school districts to help them, and because we all have a common goal of getting students to school and giving them the best opportunity to succeed.
Right. I'm also going to shout out one of your employees, Morgan Judge, who was one of our trailblazers this last year. So,
oh, that's right, she was.
She was, yes. And her story was great. And of course, it's on our website. If you're watching and want to read up on that, we'll link it below.
Yeah, no, Morgan is fantastic. So again, thank you for recognizing her. That was great.
So let's talk about Senate Bill 88.
Okay.
What is that? What does it matter? Why does it matter? And who does it affect and who does it not affect?
Yeah, Senate Bill 88, or what commonly known, SB 88, it affects California. That's the most basic piece.
Yeah.
And it is a bill to enhance safety protocols for student transportation, which we think is great.
Mm-hmm.
This applies to all students, not just the students that we primarily transport, and all student transportation providers in the state of California. And why does this bill matter? I mean, we believe it matters because it raises the bar on safety, which we've built a company, for years now, almost 20 years, building and raising the bar on safety ourselves. So we're very supportive of that. It demands accountability for all providers, which we lean into. And that should provide peace of mind, not only for districts, but for parents and guardians and caregivers of any type. And they deserve that. They deserve to have confidence and peace of mind that when a student gets into any type of vehicle to be transported to school, that's going to be a safe, calm, positive experience for that student. So,
yeah.
When I say we leaned into that, we actually became compliant with SB 88 in California 6 months ahead of the deadline.
That's right.
We believed in it so much, we leaned into that. Our local team there in California did a phenomenal job getting us ready and working with our network of providers to make that possible. So, I've said it and I'll keep saying it, safety is our number one priority. But it's not just safety, equity for all students, compliance with not only, this bill, but any safety standards across the country of any Department of Education. And then we have our own, safety standards as well that are above and beyond.
Yeah. So what are some of those, specific criteria that you had to comply with? What exactly does it look like?
Three primary areas: stringent qualifications for drivers, safety qualifications, drug testing, background tests.
Hmm.
Uh, Not only the driver, but the vehicle itself, comprehensive
Yeah.
vehicle maintenance standards. That's important, and we inspect every vehicle that goes on the road. And then detailed compliance reporting. So not just saying you're doing these things, but reporting that reporting that you're in compliance with SB 88. So
Okay.
again, we fully support that, and so much that we got there 6 months ahead because we thought it was really important.
Yeah. And so do you apply those same standards to all the vehicles across your entire fleet in the country? Or is it just in California?
Uh, Great question. Our safety standards, we believe, are the best in the industry. We go above and beyond even some things in SB 88 because we believe in those. So we apply our standard across all markets in the country, whether that's California or not.
Gotcha. Okay. Uh, are any other states considering similar legislation, or is California alone on that so far, at least?
Well, I mean, so far it's just in California, but some other states have all, prior to SB 88, other states had some legislation with different standards. So
Okay.
it's, I would say for California, that is new. But for other states, there were other laws in place or standards set by the state level Department of Education that had a lot of this in place already.
Yeah.
It is not uncommon for us to have to get a vehicle inspected by a state and have a report of that. So I would say that what California has done is fantastic, but there are other states doing and have been doing things that are similar.
Yeah. Well, and so now too, at the last National Congress on School Transportation, for the first time, there was a committee on alternative transportation, and the delegation did agree to some standards that, essentially that were whatever we ask of school bus drivers, we should ask the same of alternative transportation drivers. And it sounds like there is some similarities between SB 88 and those requirements. Of course, they are suggested, not mandatory, but when that news came out and the final results of NCST, what was your reaction to or take on that?
Well, our point of view on that, my point of view on that is it's an encouraging step.
Yeah.
We take very seriously what we do in the safety standards. So we support, safety and alternative transportation. Buses are very safe. That doesn't mean alternative transportation vehicles aren't safe, especially if you follow the standards of a company like Everdriven. It is very safe. I mean, our accident rate, we have a 99.99% accident-free percentage of all the trips we take in a year. We take over 2 million trips,
Yeah.
or provide 2 million transports per year at a 99.99% accident-free rate. So that's something, that should be looked at. It legitimizes, another way to think about it, it legitimizes alternative transportation as a mode that is important to school districts, here to stay, because that organization is creating standards around it, and we think that's exactly what should be happening.
Yeah.
Clear standards, shared accountability, and everyone working together to raise the bar on safety and equity.
Right. Absolutely. But what are some of the challenges that you face as an alternative transportation provider?
Well, I think one of the challenges is a misconception about our model. In the states we work in, which are 36, everyone understands the model. But in states that we're not yet working in, sometimes there's a misconception that it's rideshare. What we do is not rideshare.
Mhm.
Unlike rideshare, we vet our drivers to the very highest standards in the industry. Some of those standards we've been part of helping create. We do pre-service drug and background checks. We do random drug testing. We do National Sex Offender Registry checks.
Okay.
We have continuous DMV and criminal monitoring. What I mean by that is we pre-test for that or pre-vet for that, but then as long as those drivers are in our network, we use a service that will alert us if something has changed.
Okay.
So it is extremely not only comprehensive but ongoing.
Okay.
And then the other time that we'll do a drug test, if there's an incident, our process is immediate drug test, no matter how
Right.
minor. Yeah, so we drug test before we ever put a driver on the road, then do random, and then if there's any reason for us to think we need to drug test someone, we have that process as well. Other challenges with alternative transportation is sometimes, depending on the state, the regulatory environment can be very complex. And, SB 88 fully support that, but, we had to prepare for that, prepare our company for that, and we're happy we did, and proud of the fact that we're serving school districts in the safest possible way in California. There are still states where companies like us cannot operate because the legislation and the regulation was written before or not contemplating this mode of transportation. So, we work with these states to try to, change those barriers because we are helping school districts in 36 states. We want to help school districts in more than 36 states. So we work with those states to make that possible. Maybe 3-4 years ago, for example, we worked with Georgia and Maryland to make our service possible, or alternative transportation possible in those two states.
Okay, I'm really interested in what does that look like? How did you work with them? What was that process?
Well, we work with their lawmakers. We partner with lobbyists to make sure we understand the challenges or what the landscape is for those that legislation and those regulations. And a lot of that is working with those states and the leaders in those states to explain alternative transportation and the things we're talking about today, how it is very, very safe. It is not a rideshare model. And one of the big differences with rideshare is, there's a different driver every day. One of the things that we pride ourselves on a lot is that we have very consistent drivers. Over 70% of trips have the same driver for the same student. So we work with these states to explain the merits of this model that we use and we're pioneers of, and why it is safe, why it's not trying to replace busing, but to be a complement of busing. And we engage in great conversations with these states and work to change that and make it possible, like we did in Georgia and Maryland. Many of our trips are actually very long trips because that is not really conducive to sending a bus 20, 30, 40 miles, especially outside the district.
Right.
Yeah. So that's another example of something that we explain, that it's not for short trips only.
Yeah.
We provide all distances of trips, quite frankly, from the very shortest to very, very long, because that student may have to go to a special school. And to do that on a bus would be inefficient for a school district, where they could use that bus and on a route where they could completely fill the vehicle.
Inefficient and expensive. We all know.
And expensive, yes.
Feels expensive.
Well, yeah, the bus basically costs the same whether you have no students in it or full.
Right.
Yeah. The daily cost of that bus, it's about part of that is how we help school districts is they can use their buses more efficiently.
So, I imagine that another concerns some might have, especially, thinking about a school district who maybe they don't use a contractor for their busing. And they're used to kind of having control of their drivers and the buses and the environment. So, what does a partnership with you look like? What kind of assurances do you offer? And, how often do you check in if maybe someone's wondering, how do I even know if it's going well?
So a lot of that comes with the technology platform that we have. So to start the conversation, we sit down with the school district and explain the things that you and I have talked about in this conversation
Mm-hmm.
about safety, how the model works. But the way we think about the platform is, a combination of people and technology. That's what we believe works best. We always want to be, human led, but tech enabled.
Mm,
So the tools we provide a school district, all school districts that work with us have a portal where they can input a request for a trip to start the process, but they can also see every trip that takes place in real time. We provide an app for teachers that are on the sidewalk and maybe waiting for students to come up,
okay.
to drive up to the sidewalk, especially if it's in the winter and it's cold. You want to see that they're 1 minute away versus,
Yeah.
10 before you go outside. And we also provide a very similar version of that app to all parents and guardians because they need to see and have the comfort and peace of mind of the progress of that trip or how close they are to picking up that student. But also once they're in the car, are they progressing toward the school and that they are dropped off?
Yeah.
So we provide this suite of technology, but it's not about just the technology. It's about the benefits the technology provides, which is, again, communication, visibility, real-time understanding of what is happening, because these are the most vulnerable people on the planet that we transport. So it's
Mm,
one of the most important things that we can do here is to make sure everyone understands the progress of that trip. Also, in addition to that, we have cameras in vehicles. We use technology to um, monitor the driving habits of drivers. Are they braking really hard? Are they swerving on the road? And
right.
anytime that one of our drivers triggers those um, parameters, if necessary, that will pull those drivers off the road. So it's about a 360-degree experience, student experience,
Yeah.
and all the things that I mentioned um, that we're providing, and a lot of that is real-time visibility.
Yeah.
AI-powered cameras that we have, dual-facing. They face the road as well as into the vehicle, so you can see what's happening inside the vehicle.
Yeah.
So we have more and more school districts taking advantage of that.
Okay. So what does that communication look like? Is there, reporting features within your technology, or are there kind of touch bases where you talk about what's going on? And, also when we think about students with IEPs and, how that is going and what their needs are, and sometimes those change. What does that look like?
Great question. We're in constant communication with the school districts. So they provide us the pertinent information about the IEP, so we properly are prepared and provide the service based on the IEP. If that changes, the school district lets us know that changes, and then we make the change on our side so that the driver knows or our local team. That's also another part of it is the local team. Not only do we have technology that provides information for school districts, back to the human-led element of this, we have local teams across the country that are literally in the school district, visiting school districts, speaking to the transportation team, whether that's the transportation director, the McKinney-Vento liaison, the director of the SPED program. We are on-site, human-led, but also assisted by technology or tech-enabled. And as I mentioned, just last week, I visited 3 of our clients myself, and I do that from time to time as the year progresses. We also work with a lot of our school districts today, we have something called, we call the CAB, the Customer Advisory Board. Well, we have a group of about 40 school district leaders around the country that we sit down with them and get their point of view. So again, the A in CAB, the advisory part is the important piece here. So they're helping advise us of how the needs they have in the industry. So we'll share with them things we're thinking about doing or changing. They'll react to that, let us know how that does work for what they're trying to accomplish, because we're in partnership with them. We want to provide the service that they need so that we're all providing the service that students and families need.
Yeah. So you talked about misconceptions earlier. What are some of those conversations like where there's been a skeptic who's turned into a believer?
Well, good question. I mean, look, human nature is to be skeptical about things, especially things that you may not fully understand. So, as I mentioned before, that gives us an opportunity to sit down and talk about, all the things we do, how we do it, and how we protect students, and do that with safety.
Yeah.
But there are real examples of skepticism that turned into a great relationship. One of those is relatively recent, in the last couple of years. Wichita. We had been talking to Wichita for a long time, and they had been, just hadn't been buying into the idea. And finally, through our conversations, they said, "Okay, we're going to try this." And over the last, I would say, 12 to 14 months, that has gone from skepticism to, "I can't believe we weren't doing this sooner," which is just a great example of them giving us a chance, which we appreciate, and to tell our story and how this works, and them saying, "Let's do this." And now, through the service that we've provided them, all the things we've talked about, the safety, the vetting of drivers, compliance, etc. They're definite converts, and I think would be happy to help us tell that story.
Yeah. Okay. I want to mention too, we did a pretty comprehensive story recently on alternative transportation. And one thing that struck me was Greg Jackson actually mentioned that, you don't have to go all in on this from the get-go. You can start really small, do a trial, see how it goes. If you don't like how it's working, don't continue, but you don't have to write all of it off because of one of those misconceptions.
Yeah, look, I know, Greg, that's a great point. Thank you, Greg. That's a great point. We have clients that will start with one student, and we're fine with it. And one student can lead to two, and sometimes leads to hundreds when the need is there, and their combination of busing challenges and our combination of what we offer. But yeah, Greg is right. This is an easy service to sort of put your toe in the water if you want to. And some start that way. We also have districts that start with, "Now that we have this agreement, we need you to transport 50 kids immediately."
Right.
So there's every combination, but yeah, Greg's point's a good one, that you can start almost any way you want. Speaking of that, we recently did a survey of school districts across the country, and about half of them were already working on modern student transportation.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And almost the rest of them, I think combined, it was about 97%. About 50% were already working on it, and the other 47, it was in their plan to start working on modern student, or the way we define modern student transportation. So we thought that was really encouraging, because that's how we think about it. We love that school districts think about it that way. As I mentioned, our customer advisory board, between that and surveys we do with school districts, it's really about understanding their needs, making sure that, we can shape our company and the services we provide to what they and their, families and students need. Because as I've mentioned many, many times, I think we're all aligned on what needs to happen, and that's getting kids to school and giving them every chance of success.
So, let's say someone's watching this and they're ready to start dipping their toes in this water. What are some of the things you would recommend they think about that might not yet be on their radar before um, going forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so if I were sitting down with someone that hadn't used our service yet, I think the first thing I would say to them is the data is absolutely convincing that the school bus is not the only safe mode of transportation. It is absolutely a safe mode of transportation, but it's not the only safe mode of transportation. I think getting past this notion that only a school bus is safe would be the first place I would ask them to start. And we have data. We produce a safety report. That data is very compelling. Then I would make sure they understand that the flexibility that using a company like us can give them really makes their challenges, transportation challenges, transportation logistics, it's hard. And the ever-changing school dynamic is difficult. So
Mm-hmm.
we can help them with that. As I mentioned before, I visited our three of our clients just Thursday and Friday, and every single one of them said, look, we couldn't do this without you, Everdriven, because you give us the flexibility to use our buses in the best possible way we can,
Yeah.
and the ability to transport these students that have different challenges in a more efficient way. I mentioned the misconception before that it's a different driver for every trip. It is not a different driver for every trip. We work very hard to make it the same driver for every trip. And then there's the transparency that we provide, the technology that we provide, the visibility. We have automated messaging to parents, automated messaging to school districts. We want everyone to understand what's happening with that particular trip. We have this concept here at the company that every single trip matters. We have a phrase called focus on the one. I mean, yes, we do thousands and thousands of trips every day, but each individual trip is just as important as the next individual trip. So I think understanding us better, understanding that all the technology and processes that we have, but just as important as all of that is the team of people and the passion for what we do. That matters. And as I mentioned before, this is, human led. We never at Everdriven, we never want to lose the human led aspect of what we do. That's, I think you could argue, one of the most important pieces of what we do. Again, with safety always being that foundation.
For sure. So let's look into the crystal ball. What do you think the future of alternative transportation looks like in 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, we talk about this a lot. The way we think about it, and we're working with school districts and doing surveys and to shape this, to be part of shaping this. We think about student transportation as modern student transportation. It's evolving. We want to be part of helping advance that evolution. So modern student transportation to us is the future. Tech-enabled, human-led. The combination of those two things is very, very powerful. Again, we never want to lose the human-led piece, but being tech-enabled, one way or the other, is what not only school districts can take advantage of, parents and guardians to take advantage of, and ultimately the kiddos that we transport can take advantage of, in the form of transparency, visibility, being able to track a trip in real time, have information about the trip you're on and trips from the past, the right information at the right time. To us, that's we're already working on this. That's the future of modern transportation. Multimode, meaning school buses, alternative transportation. Back to, I said a couple times, there's not we don't believe, and we've surveyed lots of school districts that agree that 97% of them either are doing something or going to do something that is more multi-mode, multiple types of vehicles, because different students have different needs, different challenges. And together, we can make all of that work for the benefit of everyone involved. So we think that's the future.
Beautiful. Yeah. Mitch, we're closing in on our time. I want to ask you if there's one key takeaway you want people watching this to know, what would that be?
That alternative student transportation is safe. Working with us can help eliminate day-to-day pain points and give us, for those that may not have made the turn, so to speak, on using alternative transportation, invite us in. We'll be happy to sit down and talk about it. I think we have a compelling story all about ultimately providing the right thing for students.
Yeah. We're grateful for a vibrant student transportation ecosystem that prioritizes the safety of our nation's students, and for the alternative transportation providers making sure that all of them have options to get to and from school. We thank Mitch again for his expertise on this topic and hope you'll visit the links in the description to learn more. That's it for today, but you can find more school bus headlines and hot topics on our website anytime. Be sure to follow our YouTube channel and connect with us on social media. And a big thank you to our sponsor of the route, IC Bus, proudly offering vehicles and solutions that are ahead of its class. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for riding with us.